I am living on the edge today because I'm recording this before Game Week 22 has even finished. Players to buy and avoid for Game Week 23. Double coming up in 23, and that's Zinchenko. In my opinion, after watching Arsenal in the last few weeks, he is playing the most advanced of all the Arsenal defenders. He's getting forward, getting involved in all the build-up play. I think Arteta sees him as a really crucial part of his team and the way that they play. Arsenal fans as well, they consider him, based on what Arteta seems to be playing him like, they see him as nailed above Tierney, and he's only 0.3 million more than White as well, and I think over the course of the season he's probably worth a difference. I think he's less likely to be substituted early just for his involvement in the game, and he's more likely to come across attacking returns. Obviously he's got the double game week in 23. One of the games he's probably not going to keep a clean sheet in, but Brentford at home is a plump fixture, I think, for Arsenal. They're not going to be easy, but I think they could do well and get a clean sheet in that one. And importantly, they no longer blank in game week 28 like a number of other teams are going to. So if you're not already tripled up on Arsenal, I think Zinchenko could be the perfect way to do that. My next player is no real surprise in the world of FPL, and that's Erling Haaland. Now, I think pretty much everyone already has him, but I wanted to use this segment to really highlight the fact that I think this is one of the best opportunities for a triple captain to be played of the whole season so far. Obviously, everyone's pretty much gone for Rashford in 22 that hasn't already gone for Haaland in 20. But I think if you've held on to your triple captain still for game week 23, I think Haaland's a great shout. He doesn't seem to really be getting rotated, takes all the penalties for Man City, and the two fixtures of Villa and Arsenal away. Now, obviously, Arsenal away is a tough fixture, don't get me wrong, but Villa have just conceded 4 goals at home to Leicester, so I really think there could be some goals in that game for Haaland. And against Arsenal, who knows what could happen? I think Haaland can score against pretty much anyone, so I definitely wouldn't rule out him doing well against Arsenal either. If you look at the expected points alone, I think going into game week 22, Rashford was sitting in and around 11. And if you look at that, adding up the 8.2 and 7.4 together, you're on 15.6 points for game week 23, which is higher than Rashford was expected to get. So in my opinion, I think we'll have to see how Rashford obviously does in the Leeds game. He's done really well against Palace so far. But maybe if he only finishes on 1 goal this game week, Haaland is undoubtedly, in my opinion, a better triple captain in 23. But yeah, just wanted to highlight the fact I think Haaland triple captaincy in 23 is a really, really strong option. My next player is one that might be a bit controversial and probably a guy that's let a number of FPL players down in previous, certainly this season anyway, and that's Reece James. He's back, he's fit, and he's playing for Chelsea again. He only played 59 minutes in his previous fixture against Fulham, which I think was to the annoyance of other FPL players. But I just think he's such a good fantasy football option. He's got 0.33 expected returns per 90, which means he's expected to get an attacking return every 3 games. And to be honest, I think give him time to get back integrated in the team, getting solid minutes every week, I think that could go up. And as well, if you look at the Chelsea long-term fixtures, that's just the next 5 there on the screen, but even longer term, they're fantastic. I think Spurs are the only top 6 team they play in the next 10 game weeks. It's a really, really nice run. And yeah, I just think of all the Chelsea defenders, James is obviously the best pick because of just his attacking upside. So yeah, Reece James, I'm going to go in on him, and I think he's a great option going forwards. Next up, I've gone for Eddie Nketiah. Similar reasons really for Zinchenko. I just think Arsenal have obviously their double in 23 and they no longer blank in 28. And probably by that time, Jesus might be back in the team. So I would consider Nketiah sort of a shortish term option. But just the way that he's been playing and the underlying numbers that he has, he is number 1 in terms of the Arsenal attackers. He's better than Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli. He's better than all of them in terms of underlying numbers. And yeah, I just feel like he gets a bit less involved in the build-up play than Jesus did. And that's beneficial in terms of his attacking returns. I think sometimes Jesus got so involved in the game that he wasn't necessarily right in the box when the chances actually arrived. But Nketiah seems to be slightly the opposite of that. And he's getting on the end of all these crosses in chances for Arsenal. And I think he's a great option. He's definitely playing up to, the first team role that he's been given. And to be honest, I don't know, I said Jesus is going to be back in 3 and 4 weeks. I think he's going to find it hard to get back into the team. I think Nketiah is playing so well, he's probably cemented his place in the team until something happens. So yeah, for me, Nketiah, if you don't have him already and are not tripled up in Arsenal, I think he's a great option. And then finally on players to buy. Now, in previous weeks I've said that Man City defence should be absolutely avoided, but I think coming up they look really, really good. Now, they've obviously got rid of Cancelo, and Stones is injured, which knocks off 2, if you like, first choice players from their defence, and I think it probably narrows down the pool that Pep Guardiola has to select from. I think if you were to ask me who my picks are from the Man City defence, I'd probably say Rico Lewis, just for how cheap he is, and that you wouldn't be too annoyed if he doesn't start for 3.9 million. And I'd probably say Akanji, because so far this season, Akanji has played all but one game in the Premier League so far, which suggests to me that he's probably nailed in that Man City team. Oh no, with Ruben Diaz and Laporte coming back, that could put him at risk. It's certainly one to monitor, but for me, only missing one game all season suggests to me that Akanji is pretty favoured by Pep. One thing I thought I'd show was just the clean sheet odds over the next sort of 5 game weeks. Man City just look like, yeah, they're going to keep a clean sheet every week. Their Villa game, I really expect them to keep a clean sheet in that first fixture in 23. Obviously not sure about the Arsenal game. Forest, 65% clean sheet odds. That's one of the highest I've seen all season. Same with Bournemouth away in 25. Newcastle at home, I think, is going to be a tough fixture. And then they go against 27. They go against Palace, where they're likely to keep a clean sheet as well. So I think over the next sort of 5 game weeks, you can definitely expect, I'd say, 3 or 4 clean sheets from that Man City defence based on the algorithms. Now, similar to the previous ones, I just want to mention that these stats are provided by DraftHound, which is a free-to-use website telling you all the expected points, goal-scoring odds and clean sheet odds for each game week in FPL. But yeah, also one point against Man City as well is I know they've been conceding goals, but their underlying numbers in terms of how their defence is actually performing, like expected goals conceded, they're still really, really good. I think the goals have been a bit scrappy that they have been conceding, and I think they're gonna clean themselves up and get better over the next few weeks. So Man City defence for me, Rico Lewis and Akanji particularly are looking like players that you should bring in. Next up was my first of, teams to avoid. And to start with, I'm going for the Newcastle defence, which might appear to be controversial, but I think there's some logic behind this one. They've got a really tough run of fixtures coming up beyond game week 23. Obviously, they play Bournemouth away, which is one of the easiest fixtures you can ask for. But then they've got Liverpool, a blank, and then Man City. And I'm not sure you can really see a clean sheet in those 3 games. Which means I don't think I'd be rushing to sell them, but I don't think I'd be overly keen on bringing them in either. One thing that I've noticed as well, with that Bruno Guimaraes suspension, I put injury there, but he's suspended until the first week of March. I think they're really going to be impacted by that. I think Bruno Guimaraes is probably the best player that Newcastle have, and we already saw that in the West Ham fixture of game week 22 where they conceded. Other than the Bournemouth game, I don't really foresee after that the clean sheets in those next 3 weeks, which for me makes me think probably not worth buying a Newcastle defender at the moment. And now my next player to avoid, I don't think this comes as any real surprise just based on his current form, but I've gone for Miguel Almiron. Based similarly to the Newcastle defence that I just showed you, I think he's got a really tough run of fixtures after 23, which definitely means I wouldn't be rushing to bring him in, and I'd probably be looking to sell him actually, just as a long-term move really. I don't think he's not really playing at the level of form that he was before the World Cup. And I was saying before the World Cup as well, it was absolutely a purple patch he was in. It was just a case of when it was going to finish. He was massively outperforming his numbers to score all the goals that he did. And I just think he's reverted to the norm now. And he's just playing at the standard level that Almiron does. So yeah, I think Miguel Almiron is a player I'd be looking to sell for game week 23. And then my final player I'd probably sell him at this point, to be honest. I've just said in terms of one free transfer, I'd be probably not looking to use it on him. But given the fact that Trossard came on so early in the game against Everton, and he just doesn't seem to be getting amongst the attacking returns at the moment, his underlying numbers aren't as good as Saka, Odegaard or Nketiah. For that reason, I think I'd be selling Gabriel Martinelli. whether you would buy another, like whether you go for Odegaard, I think it's probably a straight swap really. Just the fact that Odegaard is the club captain for Arsenal, probably going to play more minutes. I know he got subbed off early against Everton, but I think across the 2 games of Brentford and Man City, Odegaard is going to get a better share of the minutes. And when you look at the underlying numbers too, Odegaard is by far and away ahead of Martinelli. And I think for that reason, I think a sideway transfer could be really valuable in 23. So for that reason, I think Gabriel Martinelli is a player you should be avoiding. And that's the end of the video. Like I said, I'm recording this on Sunday morning before the Man City game has actually gone ahead. But I think it's pretty safe to say these outcomes are going to happen. And yeah, if you found it useful, please do leave a like rating and subscribe to the Golden Goal channel. Put a comment down below if you agree or disagree with any of the picks. I say this in pretty much every video, but FPL is all about difference of opinion. If everyone had the same opinion, the game would be boring. So I'd be interested to know what you think of my picks there. I'll see you in the next video.